I rarely ever digitally paint like this, but it is one of the game-changing ways to improve your drawing tenfold. These are test cards for our upcoming Saturday Wars trading card game, available early next year along with the volume. Point is, for the packaging, I was asked to do some art, and I saw this as an opportunity to do something different, step out of my comfort zone, and see it as an opportunity to improve my art once more. This tip is to experiment, something vastly different from your safe space and comfort zone art style wise. While experimenting, that could be trying something completely new brushes, new approach. I'm using a default brush here, but also trying to put yourself in the shoes of artists you like and trying to replicate what they do, whether through a tutorial or you're just eyeballing it. Through that process, you'll be learning so much outside of your comfort zone that you can then take back to your comfort zone and enhance what's already there. Throughout this video, you're going to be watching me experiment and show you how it works as we put our card package art together. I took inspiration from some other shonen trading card games, like look at the One Piece one here, and that painterly touch, and I just thought, let's try that. And the more I try that, not just with this illustration, but with future ones as well, I will slowly get better and better at executing in that approach. So there's some things that are just going to remain the same, like those are not really going to change. Keeping the drawing dynamic, trying to figure out a great pose, composition, all that good stuff. I'm working on an image that will kind of be on the packaging for our Saturday Wars trading card. The volume is coming out. Now the cards are going to be coming out. So those of you who are interested in trading card games are going to have a blast. But for the packaging, you know, usually you have these images that just stand out a little bit more. So I wanted to do something different from my art style, which lends itself to what we're trying to do today. Experiment, do something different, come out of our comfort zone and learn a couple new things that we can then bring back to our comfort zone, our normal art style, all that good stuff. So I'm going to draw Sano on the left and then cast. I'm going to draw more characters. Saturday Wars is just essentially a crossover event where all our series come together. And finally, the book's going to be coming out next year. But the trading card packaging art is what we're working on right now. This part of the illustration is still within my comfort zone. I draw stuff like this a lot. You know, you do the sketch. Sometimes I even skip the sketching phase like this or not sketch it completely and I complete it in the ink. I'm just trying to get the vibe of what I want the image to feel like, and I'm doing something round, like all the characters are just rolling around in the air, and then we jump into the inking. Like I said, most of this is stuff that I would do anyways. This is my approach. When I really start to step out of the comfort zone is when the painting comes into play. Normally, you guys have seen me work. A lot of my stuff, not always, but a lot of it, it's very anime 2D cell shading coloring approach to it. Sometimes I do something a little bit more dynamic with the coloring, but I wanted to have a more painterly vibe. I looked at a couple other covers that I drew inspiration from, and they had that painterly vibe, and I just wanted to do something different for the packaging. Like if you saw it and they told you that I was the one that drew it or put it together or painted it, where you kind of pause. And then from that experience of trying to figure that out, trying to learn, trying to look at inspiration, that's something you kind of have to constantly do, not every time, but once in a while, because you're going to learn from that experience and you're going to learn a thing or two that you can bring back. I've done several videos that have helped in this exact way, where I try out new techniques coloring and I always learn something new, whether it be in Clip Studio Paint, Photoshop. A lot of stellar artists on the internet. Kufshinov is one. I had a WLOP video in the past. That's a WLOP, WLOP, however it's pronounced. Gaways. There's so many really cool artists that you can learn from, and even I learn from them as well. Even though I might not end up staying in that style or their approach, is always something I can take from them to add to mine that makes it better, which is the point of this whole illustration. This tip is kind of having that honesty within yourself to always want to be better, want to experiment, learn from the experimentations, and then apply, and then go back to your comfort zone and apply what you've learned. Other things you can do, there's so many artists out there that you can learn from, their own tutorials, their own gumroads with brushes that you can apply, and they might be different from you in many ways, but still try to learn from them, and that's the point. That is the goal here. The classes will focus on all aspects of what I'm talking about here, and you'll be able to learn from them and then pull back into what you do. With this video, again, it's a little different from just kind of learning tutorials, just kind of focusing on what you want to do and building your comfort zone. This is also, even if you have an established art style, an established comfort zone, you can step out, find an artist that you still admire, but it's still vastly different from what you do, and try to see if you can do what they do and learn from the process. Study them the whole time. Put yourself in their shoes. You can learn from even more basic and intermediate and expert level classes that focus heavily on this stuff. There are even curated tutorials and classes online to help you further, like on Skillshare, who in fact partnered with me to bring you guys this video. As you guys know, I'm a huge consumer of Skillshare. I've consumed a lot of classes like the one Patrick Brown does that focuses on characters in motion that helps sell that natural, non-stiff, dynamic vibes. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives with thousands of classes led by pros in the industry in comics, film, illustration, cooking, music, you name it. Invest in your goals by starting a learning journey on Skillshare to start that career, skill, or side hustle you've been thinking of. Even if you need help figuring out where to start, Skillshare has designed learning paths that help you get from novice to pro with curated classes edging you towards your goal. The first 500 people to use my link in the description get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Doing so would also be you supporting this channel greatly, as well as you supporting yourself. So in these cases, especially when I'm not directly referencing a tutorial for this, and that's how I wanted to start this experiment, to see how I would figure this out on my own. And sometimes when you do that, right, you're just going visually on what you're trying to achieve. You have it in your head and you're trying to achieve it physically with the software you're using. Then you find yourself coming up with new techniques and ways to actually make it up. So you're not only drawing inspiration and techniques and tips from other creators or other styles that are outside your comfort zone in an attempt to replicate what they're doing, you would actually be creating your own way of doing it, where in some cases that might be better. Usually, probably not. I would not be surprised if my method here is a little bit more tedious and messy. Now, the end result is what matters, but now, moving forward, it would actually give me more direction of what kind of tutorials to look for, to now specifically see how other creators tackle this, and then I can apply it to this particular struggle and problem for me. And here, I'm attempting to paint it all on one layer, but I don't want to go over other aspects of it, but because it's on one layer, I can easily like color in parts that I don't want to. So now I'm selecting it, making sure I'm using refer to all layer because it's all on one layer. That way it will only select based off of the contrast between one hue and the other. So it casts space. The difference between the colors of her hair and her skin are not that much, but it's just enough contrast to where I could just select the skin and then I can go in with more details. And again, everything is still on one layer. I don't have a separate layer doing the shading and everything like that. I'm trying to achieve it all on one, similar to how you would do it traditionally. And then I'm getting acquainted with that and trying to understand what parts would be darker and what parts wouldn't. You don't just want to pick darker colors of the same exact hue and lighter colors of the same exact hue. You might actually tweak the hue a little bit here and there. And that's something where I'm drawing from just coloring in general, taking from experience that I have from the past. You can still do this and then have layers above it that add more contrast with the shading and the highlights and things like that. But I'm trying to have that base. Like even when you look at someone's skin, it's not just one flat color. So in a sense, I'm also bringing some realism to the coloring, which is what painting kind of does. So this is the technique that I'm coming up with off the cuff, out of my comfort zone in this experimental phase, but it will give me more direction when I'm now looking for more tutorials and looking at how other creators do it. And then I can revisit this and maybe even have a better approach. I had the same approach for all the different hues, and I'm gonna continue doing that for the entire illustration. Y'all can let me know your thoughts. I'm positive there are better ways to do this. In fact, I've done it in different videos, but I'm just trying something new and experimenting. Now I'm bringing some of the knowledge I already have in the more conventional ways of doing it, with more layers for the lighting in Sano's Erota's arm, the lighting on Cast, having an interesting background, to give it some screen tones because I just don't want a flat color in the back, but then I'm picking a color that's still similar to yellow, something still warm. And then I use Clip Studio Paint to add speed lines. Again, picking a warm but dark color so everything kind of fits. I still do certain things like having a layer above the whole illustration that's warm with a linear burn blending mode and reducing the opacity so that the characters kind of fit this yellow flat background. Again, that's an optional thing. So even though I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, I'm still bringing some things with me. Having a similar linear burn layer again, but this time I'm using the airbrush to form shadows on the edges, and then another layer to show light emitting from the Erota's arm. And after this, it's just kind of constantly playing with things. Another layer for highlights in the hair with the appropriate blending modes. Another layer again for even harsher highlights in the hair. as you can see me doing with Sano, the lead character of Apple Black. So now I'm just putting everything together. But the base is where I did most of my experimenting with the digital painting. Cool thing is you're uncomfortable there, but the more you do things like that, the more comfortable you become, and the better you become at it as well. You're learning from all your mistakes, you're learning from your errors, and if you're constantly looking for tutorials or tips here and there, you're going to enhance what you're already trying to do. That's something you're just going to constantly keep getting better at. Like my anime cell shading approach to coloring, the way I do it today is far superior than how I used to do it in the early days. And that's how you get better. The only difference is that I did that so much that became my comfort zone. And so you can then expand what your comfort zone is, which makes you a more versatile artist. It gives you more tools to do all kinds of fun stuff. For the 2.5 people that made it to the end of this video, I thank you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you stay notified each time I upload absolutely anything. Turn on all notifications. Links to everything you could possibly need will be in the description below. Check out more videos. It's Whyt Manga, and there's more to come.